Hello everyone, it's so good to be back here again. And I mean that in more than one ways this time, I guess, because not only has it been a short while since I've put out any content for the Bottomless Pit, but I also just came back from Paris. Yeah, it's always a blessing to take that trip over there. But here we are today to talk about music, my top 40 albums of 2023. Yeah, we're already well into 2024, but what can I tell you? I've been keeping busy, clearly. And I guess I always do feel a little rusty when talking about music on this YouTube channel because it's just not something I do all that often. But even so, there's no denying that music is just such a massive part of my life. It truly is in many ways the lifeblood that just courses through my veins, and it is very much the fuel that I use for my creativity at work. Every day I'm just submerging myself in just endless oceans of music, and those horizons only seem to be growing vaster with each and every year, if not day, honestly. There's just so much music out there, it kind of blows my mind whenever I stop to think about it. I could spend the rest of my life on this YouTube channel just talking about music without even touching film, games, literature, any of that. So yeah, I mostly focus on films and games on this YouTube channel, which is fine for me, but today is going to be an exception. There's so much great music that came out in 2023 and really inspired me in meaningful ways. As always with these year-end lists, I'm not the be-all, end-all arbiter of what is good or bad, but these are the albums that were the soundtracks of my life in the year of 2023. So without further ado, let's check it out. And to kick off the top 40, I do want to say that I'm going to challenge myself to be a bit more concise with this video because once again, we are already well into 2024. And like I mentioned previously, it's not something that I'm used to talking about on this YouTube channel. So I'll try and just make it quick and to the point for all our sakes, I guess. In any case, as usual, I digress. To start off the top 40 with these 10 albums, they're not necessarily albums that are going to reinvent the wheel of everything we know and love about music, but they're all very thought-provoking pieces each in their own unique ways. The first one, number 40, Sundial by No Name, is no exception in that regard. This is far from my favorite No Name album, and indeed it did cause quite a bit of controversy for good reason, mind you. Can I just say that it was thought-provoking to say the least? Yeah, it was a little bit of a head-scratcher, but there's still a lot of interesting musical passages and lyrical wizardry at play here that is worth delving into, at the very least to just make your own opinion of. I am curious to see where she goes next in her career following this album. Next at number 39, I chose Heavy Heavy by Young Fathers. This is an album that I very much enjoyed when it came out earlier that year, and I do recall it being one of the first notable releases in 2023, though I kick myself for not having listened to it all that much throughout the whole year. Honestly, I kind of forgot about it, but when I did revisit it preparing myself for this list, I was pleasantly surprised, and you guys should definitely not sleep on it like I did. At number 38, Genesis Owusu is following up with yet another great album following his excellent debut album Smile With No Teeth, this time with Struggler, proving once again that he's one of the most exciting new voices coming out of Australia. I particularly love the post-punk, R&B, and hip-hop mashup that he creates on this album. But honestly, as much as I did enjoy both albums, I can't say that it's fully bloomed on me yet. Believe me, I am not hating on it, far from it, but for whatever reason, I still feel like I haven't fully wrapped my head around it. Though this is in no ways a warning. If anything, this is an invitation for you guys because I feel like most people, if not all people, probably enjoy this album a lot more than I do. So yeah, check it out because I really do think I'll be revisiting this one, and when I do come back to it, I'm pretty sure it's going to grow on me even further. I just feel it in my bones. At number 37, I chose Multitudes by Feist. This is a delicate, haunting, and beautiful album that honestly ranks with some of Feist's best work to date. Tracks like Love Who We Are Meant To really pulls on the heartstrings and strikes at something raw deep inside of me. And this is yet another one of those albums that I just wish I listened to more in 2023. What can I tell you? Music on its own, there's just so many things to check out, and I'm not even going to get into all my other interests. Excuses aside, moving to number 36, I'm choosing Midair by Paris, Texas. This was a super fun and creative album that I really enjoyed listening to, that I don't hear too many people talking about. In fact, it almost flew right underneath my radar, but luckily I have friends who will highlight it for me. It is a really interesting mix of this rap and rock aesthetics, and whenever I do think of this album, it brings me right back to the summertime, which is a vibe that I'm totally missing right now, especially in this cold Canadian winter, hence the hat and coat right now. Moving to number 35, I'm choosing Unreal Unearthed. This is the third album from Irish solo artist Hozier, which admittedly this is my first introduction to his music, and it was quite an interesting one. I was very much pleasantly surprised by the inspiration of Dante's Inferno that colors this album's thematics, and not only does this album feature some of the catchiest pop songs of the year, Who We Are in particular kills me every time, but this album also features some of the best vocal talent I've heard all year long. At number 34, I'm choosing The Window by Rap Boys. Not all music or art, generally speaking, needs to reinvent the wheel. Sometimes I like a good back to basics indie rock album to just chill out and relax to. Though as chosen may be, there's quite a strong and some of a dark thematic at play here, notably the title track The Window, which captures this experience of Julius Steiner's grandfather during the COVID-19 pandemic, who unfortunately was unable to say goodbye to his wife who was dying, who was left to watch her through a nursing home window, hence the title of the album and track. Though as dark as that may be, there are a bunch of super catchy and uplifting tracks on this album, such as Cross the Line, but without question my personal favorite is the 8-minute long Black Earth. Moving on, we have one of the most respected rappers of all time putting out not one but two great albums who's going to take up the next two spots over here with Magic 3 and Magic 2. Nas really has been on an incredible creative win streak lately, hasn't he? Most notably with King's Disease 2 and 3. Though I don't think Magic 2 or 3 quite reach the heights of those previous albums, there's still plenty of gold to extract from either album. If I had to choose one over the other, I think I would go for Magic 2, but honestly, what a time to be alive where we have quite a creative talent like him just putting out more and more content that is still super high quality. And at number 31, we have one of the most respected creative voices working in music today, coming out with her long-awaited return. I'm talking about PJ Harvey's I Inside the Old Year Dying. PJ Harvey continues to reinvent herself and explore new creative avenues with her most poetic, tender, and thought-provoking albums in her long and illustrious career. Though I dare say this album has yet to fully bloom on me. I think there's quite a lot to unpack here, and this isn't exactly the most accessible listening experience. Not to say that that's a bad thing, of course. I believe with time, repeated listens, and a bit of maturity and age on my part, I guess I am a bit of a youngster in many ways, but I am confident that I will be unpacking a lot of gold through this over the years, because she truly is quite a treasure and this absolute powerhouse of a musical force. At the top 30, so things are getting progressively more heated here, and a lot of the choices we're going to see in the next 10 artists over here are coming from veterans who show that they still have so much more to bring to the table, and they prove that they're still very much among the best on what they do in their milieu. Save for a few exceptions, such as this first artist here at number 30. Pink Panthers is a relative newcomer in the music scene, but finally she puts out her official debut album, Heaven Knows. This is a hyperpop, dance, hip-hop banger after banger on this very short but delicious album. This is without question one of the major mainstream highlights of the year. Next, number 29, Lil Yachty impressed the whole world quite early on in the year, mind you, with Let's Start Here, a record that came out back in January 2023. This is an epic, kaleidoscopic, psychedelic rap, psychedelic rock journey unlike anything you'll hear this year. I imagine for a lot of people this is a record that could rank way higher up, and honestly I totally get it. This thing rocks, no pun intended. And as much of a creative left turn that album was, nothing will compare with the choice that I have at number 28. After a 17-year gap of no album release post-Outkast, Andre 3000 finally comes out with his first debut solo album called New Blue Sun, and it was not what we were expecting. New Blue Sun is a 87-minute flute ambient instrumental album that has no rap or any vocals whatsoever. Yeah, whatever we were expecting this album to be, it wasn't it, and I'm sure a lot of people are still left scratching their heads even to this day. It is an incredibly sparse ambient record that feels like it belongs in a Zen monastery. And the gigantic song titles and their link too, mind you, are eye-widening to say the least. So if you bear with me a moment, I do believe it's worth just reading out a title or two from the album. So for example, the opening track, I swear I really want to make a rap album, but this is literally the way the wind blew me this time, which opens at a whopping 12 minutes and 20 seconds. And then the next song, the slang word pussy rolls off the tongue with far better ease than the proper word vagina. Do you agree? Clocking in at 13 minutes and 50 seconds. Yeah, it's basically 90 minutes of that kind of content. This wasn't exactly a lot of people's cup of tea, and to be fair, I get it, but personally, I found this to be a very calming and relaxing and reflective and meditative album experience. And for my part, I actually listened to this a lot while I was going to and from work, which actually helped me a lot with reading to just drown out the noise of traffic and people chattering in either the bus or the metro. So yeah, thanks Andre. I did not expect to be reading to your flute, but hey, you know, that's the world we live in today. I'll take it. And if I may digress for a further moment, the film industry had their Barbenheimer day, and now in our musical parallel universe, on the same day that New Blue Sun came out, there was a second album that I was very much looking forward to that made quite an impression on me as well. Of course, I'm talking about the long-awaited Quaranta from Danny Brown. The long delayed, I should say, because this is an album that should have come out a long time ago, apparently. And as much as I did enjoy this album, it was quite a strange experience for me. It really does feel like this is an older Danny Brown that I'm listening to and not the 2023 version of him. It's a very mellow and I dare say depressed version of Danny in comparison to his very energetic, chaotic, and yelpy vocal style. The album almost feels like a burnout, and I feel like the album cover kind of mirrors that in many ways. It is worth noting that today Danny is post-rehab and is creatively fired up, not only musically but also in his podcasting, and his comedic touch is stronger than ever before, clearly. But musically, his current features and collaborations showcase a much more confident and powerful Danny Brown than on this specific album. But don't get me wrong, I'm not saying this is a bad album, far from it. There's so many highlights that I really vibe with. And me being such a big Danny Brown fan, I can't help but appreciate this chapter of his life nonetheless, because it is a stepping stone to where he is now. All I want to say is, you know what? I love you, Danny Brown, and I can't wait to see what's coming next for you. I foresee big things in your future. Moving on now onto number 26, Queens of Stone Age has always been one of my all-time favorite bands. And if you were to ask me, is In Times New Roman their best album? Nah, far from it. In fact, it might actually be their weakest album to date. But even so, this thing totally rocked my socks off. Tracks like Paper Mache just go so hard, and Made to Parade is a big favorite of mine. The ending in particular is damn near orgasmic. Ugh! Moving on, at number 25, The Lamb as Effigy is a gigantic 96-minute experimental noise rock odyssey. Holy shit, does this album go hard. And apparently Sprain has called it quits as a band following this album, so that is rather unfortunate, but my god, what a swan song to go out on. Next, at number 24 is Dog's Body by Model Actress. Whenever I think of this album, I recall the moment when I played this record for my friend, and they told me that it felt like they were taking crystal meth while listening to this music. I hope they were saying that jokingly and not talking from experience, but on some level, I get it. This is a really eerie and disturbing listen. Even so, it's low-key kind of a total banger. I can't help but kind of dance to this shit. The best way for me to describe would be to call it a groovy, grungy, industrial, dance punk raver hit. Yeah, it's a bit of a mouthful and a weird mix, but it totally works actually. At number 23, we have one of the most prolific rappers putting out yet again another giant album for us to digest for a long period of time. That is, until he puts out yet another album probably next year or something like that. A$AP Rock's Integrated Tech Solutions is yet another dense, and I do mean dense, mesmerizing rap odyssey of an album that only someone of his talent could pull off with such consistency and clarity. There are numerous highlights off this 18-track album, but my favorite would have to be the track Living Curfew, which has a sensational feature from none other than Billy Woods. At number 22, we have Coda from Supermassive Quasar. Supermassive Quasar is a one-man army who puts out a veritable heap of music, one project after another. The name Supermassive Quasar is no accident. In any case, I've been a fan for years now, and this album Coda feels like a victory lap in many ways. This is a massive 19-track album featuring one pop rock, dance rock, hard rock banger after another. This record was a boatload of fun, and it seems like there's plenty more content on the way from Dominic once again, which is no surprise knowing him. And to close off this group of 10 records, I'm going for Foo Fighters' latest album, But Here We Are. This, of course, is a bittersweet record due to the passing of longtime bandmate and drummer Taylor Hawkins. Not only is this a passionate send-off of their friend, but this also happens to be one of the best overall Foo Fighter albums put out to date, which is no small feat, mind you. But yeah, as much as I do love this album and I have listened a few times, it's just not an album I return to eagerly because it's just loaded with too much grief for me, I guess. But I do recommend you guys to check it out at the very least once, because it really is an excellent hard rock album. What more can I say? Rest in peace, Taylor Hawkins. We'll miss you and we'll remember you forevermore. To kick off the top 20 of this list, the latest have been on absolute fire this year. It's impossible to rate any one of them one before the other, so whatever. As always with these year-end lists, take it with a small grain of salt, but we just gotta give it up to them because it's been an absolute win streak here. And they're all incredible works of art. They truly have inspired me to no end. At number 20, I'm choosing Saved. Reverend Kristen Michael Hayter sheds her cloak of lingua ignota, but loses none of the harrowing potency from her previous works. It's just as powerful as it's ever been. If you're looking for a little amuse-bouche, I do recommend you check out I Will Be With You Always. It's an incredible hair-raising experience in the best way possible. Next up at number 19 is one of the catchiest dance pop albums of the year. Amare's Fountain Baby is an exquisitely produced album that is simply euphoric. euphoric to listen to. This generally isn't exactly my cup of tea, but I found it to be simply irresistible. At number 18, I'm putting Mitski's The Land is Inhospitable and So Are We, a beautiful country rock pop album that honestly left me in awe. And by the way, this is actually my first Mitski album. I know, I'm super late to the party. It's been a long time that I've been wanting to check out her album, but what can I do? It just never happened. But boy, was I pleasantly surprised by this album. It is a brief yet touching collection of songs. I could not recommend it more. And at number 17, we have Olivia Rodrigo's Guts album. Admittedly, from the outside, I did have this impression of her being this Disney princess, and I did hesitate at first getting into this album, but boy, oh boy, am I glad I kept an open mind, because this thing actually goes so hard in ways that I did not expect. My favorites of this album have to be Bad Idea, Right, and Ballad of a Homeschool Girl. Oh my god, this thing rocks. Hot damn. And at number 16, I'm placing Lana Del Rey's latest album, which is quite a mouthful, so bear with me for a moment. Did you know that there's a tunnel under Ocean Boulevard? I have to admit that I've never been a huge Lana Del Rey fan. Not that I'm trying to throw shade on her or anything, far from it. It just never resonated with me. Though I guess ever since the reputation she gained from Norman fucking Rockwell, which even to this day I have yet to listen to, yet I know, I'm late to the party on that one too. What am I waiting for right now? I guess that aside, I have no trouble believing people telling me that this is probably one of her, if not her crowning achievement to date, because this album is simply sensational. It is a massive 16-track record that shows off some powerful vocal and poetic talent that captured my heart from the first listen. And finally, at least for this immediate, amazing, legendary win streak of incredible female musical talent, I am choosing Caroline Polachek's Desire, I Want to Turn Into You. This may very well be the finest pop album of the year. You'll find not only some of the biggest pop hits of the year on this album, but also some most creative use of sound in any pop album I've had the pleasure of listening to in quite a while. It was a delicious musical experience from beginning to end. Oh yes! Moving on to number 14 is perhaps the most beautiful record of the year. Sampha's Lahai legitimately makes me feel like I'm levitating every time I listen to it. His voice is so effortlessly wonderful. The instrumentals are captivating, mesmerizing even. This is his first album released in 6 years, but by God was it worth it. It is a sensational listening experience. I could not recommend it more to you all. This is one of those albums that I feel has this like near universal appeal to people. Or at least it should if there was justice in the world. Moving on to number 13 is a record that has been a long time coming, or rather, to finally resurface. Voadir is the collaborative effort between Earl Sweatshirt and The Alchemist, and apparently this is an album that has been living in the internet for quite a while, just waiting to be discovered. To quote The Alchemist from his tweet, Earl and I hit a whole album on YouTube under a fake name and a YouTube page, fake album covers, song titles, the whole nine. Nobody found it yet. Now that we finally had a chance to listen to the whole thing, it is an exciting and creative collection of songs that brings out some of the best moments from either of these two prolific artists. You don't want to miss this, even if you don't think it's the best project from either Earl or The Alchemist. And number 12 is, I think, the shortest album on this list, clocking in at around 26 minutes long. But no matter how short it may be, 10,000 EX is an absolute rager of an album. Oh my god. You'll get one hyperpop banger after another, interspersed by some truly bizarre cuts that will just leave you scratching your head wondering what the hell did I just listen to. It definitely is one of the weirder musical experiences you'll have this year, but my god is the music dangerously catchy. It's fun, wild as hell, and viciously creative. Hell yes. And finally, before reaching the top 10, I might be slightly cheating here because this might not be officially a real album, but you know what? Fuck it. Tyler absolutely killed it with The Estate Sale. These 7 tracks are for the most part absolute fire. I've been bumping this thing on repeat for much of the summer. Tyler's flow and lyrical skill seems to be only improving with each new album cycle. And though this is the first time in a 2-year gap that we don't get a new official album released from Tyler, and even though in many ways this does feel like a bit of extra content from the Call Me If You Get Lost era, I'm totally fine with it. These are still some of the catchiest and most creative rapping you'll find from any artist working to date. I'm more than happy to take these few songs and coast along until whenever Tyler is ready to drop a new full-length project. Take your time, Tyler. You seem to be doing just fine. Top 10, here we are. These are the albums that made the biggest impression on me, and probably the albums that I listen to the most on repeat. Even to this day, I continue to unpack gold from them, and they are albums that mean a lot to me. As always, to each their own, but there it is. Let's close off this list in style. At number 10, my first pick is one that I venture into with a lot of trepidation and hesitation. But oh my god, did it surpass my expectations like nothing else this year. Black Country New Roads live at Bush Hall is an incredible live recording that had the band adapting to some massive changes in the band. Those changes being that their previous frontman leaving the band a week before their previous album release, Answer From Up There, which FYI was my crowning achievement album of the year for 2022. It felt unfathomable and incomprehensible how anyone could follow at such a monumental success, let alone in the light of losing such a crucial identity of their sound and band camaraderie. But honestly, in so many moments, this record made my heart soar through the sky. It is beautiful, passionate, and creative in a way that only a band like Black Country New Roads could achieve. And the vocal talent is absolutely lovely. It's a miracle how well the band is holding up and adapting to situations, but honestly, I probably shouldn't be quite so surprised. After all, Isaac Woods was one of 7 band members, and they all share quite a lot into the success story of Black Country New Roads. And really, I do love the sentiment that the band has towards him leaving the group. It feels like there's no animosity whatsoever, and to quote them from their opening track, Up Song, "Look at what we did together, BCNR, friends forever." The band clearly has a very bright future ahead of them, and I'm just once again totally head over heels in love with them. At number 9, I am choosing Ways of Knowing by Navy Blue. It is a beautiful, melancholic rap album that is such a contrast to so much of the abrasive nature that rap music so often has. I can't tell you just how refreshing it is to dive into this extremely soulful and uplifting musical experience. It really feels like going to therapy, and as far as I'm concerned, is perfect for a rainy day vibe. It is such a chill, relaxing, and contemplative rap experience that I would feel comfortable sharing with so many people in my life. There are numerous highlights on this record, such as The Medium, The One, but most of all, Window to the Soul absolutely melts my soul every time I listen to it. These songs, frankly, fill me with awe. Oh my god, I love this album. Moving on to number 8, without a doubt, the most heart-wrenching album this year. Perhaps followed up as a close second with that Foo Fighter record, of course. Sufjan Stevens Javelin is a beautiful dedication to his late partner, Evan Richardson, who passed away last April at the age of 43. The poetic talent at work here ranks with the very best works of his career. It is nuanced, passionate, oh so tender, and absolutely devastating. It is an incredible musical experience, but one that I struggle to return to because it's just, frankly, a little too potent for my taste. Still, it is absolutely necessary to listen to this masterpiece at least once in your life. And number 7 might be my favorite comeback story of the year. Paramore is back after a 6-year album gap, and they feel stronger and more confident than ever. This album really made me feel like I took a time portal back to my teenage years, and I don't mean that in a bad way. Frankly, if I look at some of my tastes I had back in those days, they were a little questionable. Not all of them, thankfully. But as far as Paramore goes, I gotta say, they sound like they haven't aged a single day, which is quite impressive. These are easily their catchiest and strongest batches of songs yet. This is without question some of the best alternative rock you'll hear all year long, and clearly I'm not alone in thinking this. It's gotten pretty much universal acclaim at this point. I really couldn't recommend it more if you grew up listening to Paramore, and if you haven't listened to them before, well, now's a great time to start. Number 6 is gonna be a really tough one. I really hesitated keeping this one on the list, seeing all the allegations that just came out that honestly I wasn't aware of until as I was preparing the script. But the truth is, it is an album that I've listened to a lot, and especially in the first half of 2023. So it is an album that I can't help but separate from my soundtrack of my life in 2023, as painful as it may be. And I guess in a way, innocent until proven guilty, it doesn't make me feel any better, I'll be honest with you guys. And you guys can lambaste me, thumbs down as much as you like. I get it. I'm super upset by this one. But nonetheless, in the spirit of transparency, I'm talking about Slow Tie's Ugly, which apparently the title is an acronym for You Gotta Love Yourself. Yeah, no kidding. Yeah, the irony couldn't be more painful, especially given the fact that, once again, I learned until very recently that Slow Tie is officially charged in court for 2 counts of rape. The trial is set to begin as of the 1st of July in 2024, so yeah, I guess we'll see how that turns out. Not that we can brush that aside. That is obviously impossible, but his music always struck me as incredibly tortured, diving deep into the dark corners of the mind, and some truly creative and I Think Honest Ways. It always has been an incredibly potent, painful, and thought-provoking musical experience that clearly is only growing more painful as time goes on. Yeah, I don't know what more to say right now. Be good to not only yourselves, but to everyone around you. Namaste and all that. Alrighty, moving on. Here we are at the top 5. These ones are major slam dunks. At number 5, I'm choosing underground rap veterans Billy Woods and Elucid teaming up once again as Arm & Hammer with their latest album, We Buy Diabetic Test Strips. Oh my god, this is one of the most dense, intricate, and complex lyrical rap albums I've ever listened to. They only seem to be getting more and more potent with each new release, and this latest one is just an absolute bulldozer of talent and lyrical wizardry. These guys really are at the top of their game here, and I feel like I'm going to be unpacking the lyrical content of not only this album, but all their discography, frankly, for the several years to come. I feel like my IQ is not adapted for that kind of stuff. And as a cool side story, I actually did get a chance to see them live not too long ago. I saw them, January 20, 2024 here in Montreal at the Bar de la Ritz. They absolutely slayed it. Holy shit. And it was such a simple show. Dark room, close quarters, 2 mics, 2 lights, no fancy setup, just them rapping their asses off in the most confident and potent rapping I've ever seen in person.
Told you when we started spending it, be held to pay at the end it, voice to text fucking up till
holy shit, they were devastating. And to just make the night even better, after the show, they came up and brought out their own merch stand, and I was just amazed at how chill they were to just come and hang out with us normies, talk to us, ask us questions, and just sign some shit. Yeah, I got a signed vinyl of Shrines from them. That was totally unexpected and super cool of them, and once again, they are 2 rap veterans that are absolutely slaying it. If you haven't heard of them yet, you should definitely check them out. And before I forget, the lyrical miracles on their own is more than enough reason to check them out, but also they feature some of the weirdest and most intricate soundscapes I've heard in any rap album this year. What an incredible album. Moving on to more rock territory, at number 4, I'm choosing 3D Country by Geese. This is such a cool and serendipitous discovery for me because this is a New York-based band that I discovered while I was in New York City. Totally by accident, mind you. Yeah, honestly, it was a bit of a wild summer for me. This really felt like the perfect cowboy degeneracy vibes that I needed for the summer of 2023, and this really was the start of my Banana Mike, Party Mike era. Not that I party all that hard, but it's a title that my friends used to rile me up, get me a little excited, and what can I say, was the kind of energy and motivation I needed, and this album was the perfect fire starter for that. There are so many catchy, infectious tunes that are just so fun and groovy. Oh my god. It's a really raunchy listen, and I've had so much fun listening to this album countless times this year, and I kicked myself for not being able to see them when they came to Montreal sometime in 2023. I don't remember what reason I had to not see them. I had a reason, but god damn, I wish I could just soul split and have been there for them because this thing rocks my banana socks off. Oh, and before I forget, that album was awesome enough, but they also put out a really great EP called 4D Country, which totally slays. Especially the track Space Race. Yo, this is wild. But the amazing raw vibes don't end here. At number 3, I am choosing Oh Monolith by Squid. Yeah, I feel like in recent years people have been saying that rock is dead, but Geese and Squid are proving us, no, it might not be in quite as grand abundance as it used to be, but it's still very much alive when you have artists that are so strong and potent as these guys. Oh Monolith is probably my favorite experimental rock album of the year. There's so many juicy, progressive, and post-punk vibes here that really just left me reeling back in just this whirlwind of inspiration and awe. As a funny anecdote, I actually discovered Squid totally by accident. I picked up their vinyl when I was in Paris a couple years ago. I was in a record shop and I thought I recognized the album cover of another record that I was curious to check out, but lo and behold, it was Squid. I enjoyed their debut album. It was fine, it wasn't anything amazing. It left me curious for more, but this sophomore album succeeded in every way. This is a phenomenal album from beginning to end, and if you're looking for a great experimental, progressive, post-punk album, look no further than this. This is legit. Here we are at number 2. I am choosing Billy Woods and Kenny Siegel's Maps. This is an album that I listened to countless times in 2023, and even to this day, whenever I revisit it, it is still just as fresh and as potent as it ever was. And yes, this is the second Billy Woods album we have on this list, the previous one being from Arm & Hammer, but I gotta say I am absolutely floored by Billy Woods. I really do think he is the most prolific artist working today. Not only does he have 2 incredible top 5 albums of the year, he put out 2 great albums last year. His first one, Ethiops, being one of the crowning achievements of that year. I think it ranked at number 2 as well last year, actually. And the year before that, his Arm & Hammer project, Haram, was absolutely devastating and without question my crowning achievement for rap of 2021. And I'm not even going to get into all his collaboration albums, his solo works, all his stuff with Arm & Hammer. It is dizzying just how much content and how dense and complex all of his works are. Once again, similarly as with the Arm & Hammer project, his lyrical game is so complex and creative, it just defies logic and gravity. Though admittedly, the soundscape is much more chill, more jazzy, and more accessible, I'd say, in comparison to the very experimental, dark, and esoteric nature of We Buy Diabetic Test Strips. But that's not to say that there isn't darkness and complexity on this one. This thing has quite a wide range, but it is a deliciously produced album from beginning to end and has countless highlights and some incredible features from artists that I've already mentioned on this list, such as A$AP Rock and Danny Brown as well. Yeah, guys, go check it out. This thing is an instant classic. And finally, at number 1, there's only one album I could have chosen for this. In my Spotify Wrapped, everything on it was from this album. So yeah, like I listened to this thing so many times, and I will probably listen to it even more. I am talking about no other album than Scaring the Hose by JP Mafia and Danny Brown, the legendary collab album of the year. Oh my god, what a vibe. I'm already a huge fan individually of each of these rap artists' career. I think they are some of the most interesting and creative new modern voices in rap music today, and to have both of them come together on a single album was such a surprise and such a delight. And what a ride. This thing is so crazy. The beats that Peggy's using on this album are just so wild and creative and out there on their own in a vacuum. I would never think anyone would ever use this for a rap album, but they make it work in hilarious and creative and honestly some really badass and hard ways. This album goes so goddamn hard. It just fully believes in its vision. This was the soundtrack of my life for 2023. Yeah, 2023 was a weird year for me, and it was exactly the kind of chaotic energy I needed. And this thing has such a wide range. It just literally jumps all over the place. It's really hard to pin it down in a single category, which is kind of the magic and glory of this thing. That on its own would have landed at the number 1 spot, but lo and behold, later on in the year, we got a DLC pack from these two guys with an extra 4 tracks that honestly ranked just as high with some of my favorite tracks off this album. This thing is an absolute banger. It is so weird, so out there, so gonzo, but I'm totally there for it. This was exactly the kind of energy I needed for this very trying, chaotic, and shifting year of my life. Thank you, Peggy and Danny. It definitely won't be everyone's cup of tea. It's gonna be really too wild and experimental and out there, but yeah, it's a vibe. Let's just leave it at that. So yeah, those are my picks for 2023. It was a busy and strange year, and this music really just helped fuel my creativity and also in strange ways bring me back to myself better. It really is the lifeblood that just courses through my veins that makes everything so much better. Even when things aren't going great, I got music, so there's nothing to worry about. And I also want to take a moment to thank you all who are listening to my YouTube channel here. I always welcome the opportunity to just practice expressing my thoughts. It is something that honestly, you might not see it, but it is helping me out a lot in my own personal life and also my professional life as well as a game developer. And honestly, at the basis, I just really enjoy coming here and talking about whether it's movies, games, or in this case, music. It's not something I do all that often, but I really am head over heels in love with music, and even though I don't really talk that often on this channel, I do post quite a lot on my Instagram channel, which you can go check out if you are interested. Yeah, I guess I have become a bit of an Instagram hoe for the last year or so. I've been posting a lot, sketching, drawing, traveling, whatever. I'm just doing everything I can to live my life to the fullest and enjoy myself. So if you guys are enjoying this content, fantastic. If not, you know what? That just means I need to do better. I really do take these as stepping stones, learning opportunities, and I do feel like I'm slowly getting better over time. So you know what, if you have any feedback, I'm always open to it. So with that being said, wishing you and your loved ones nothing but the best. As always, take care guys, talk to you soon. There's one last final year-end list to be done that is for the best films of 2023. I'm gonna take my sweet ass time with that one, so I expect it'll be out sometime in March maybe, but fear not, it is coming as sure as you were born. Bye now.